Metaphors, metaphors, metaphors. We love a good metaphor, especially if you are from the hypnosis world. There's a lot of juicy details and attention on metaphors. Now, today I'm not going to talk about what the best metaphors are to use. Truth of the matter is, there isn't. However, what I'm going to talk about today is how to organically and naturally use metaphors in order for you to help your clients more profoundly. And so, when you have been trained in the traditional methods, there's a lot of metaphors, right? Some scripts will have metaphors and allow you to like expand on the metaphors. Like there are even classes that help you to create these metaphors for your clients. This is not what I'm talking about here. First off, that's too much work. And second of all, it's unnecessary in order for you to create the breakthroughs. Because let me ask you this. What do you think is going to create a more profound change inside your client? Your metaphors that you are using for yourself to influence another nervous system? Or would it be more powerful to utilize the metaphors that or just organically come out of your clients and utilize that instead of the things that you are creating for them? Just think about that for a second. Which one do you think is more powerful? Which metaphors do you think will last or be more memorable for your client? Inside the neuroscience hypnotic questioning program and method, we talk about this concept of entering our client's world, not creating a world for the client. And an example is that, for example, you are in your session and your client goes, I just feel like I'm stuck in a cage. Traditionally, you were taught to take that metaphor of being stuck in a cage and for you to create something out of that, right? Like imagine the cage is now open and you've got the key in your pocket and the key has been you the whole time and then blah 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 blah, right? We don't do that shit. Instead, when a client comes into your sessions and say, I feel like I'm stuck in a cage, then we ask questions about that. We expand that and we explore that metaphor. So instead of helping them find the key, we're just going to explore that metaphor. Okay, so how did you get into the cage? What does the cage look like? What does it feel like to be in the cage? Those type of questions, because those are the exploratory questions that we ask inside our sessions, and that way the client can expand. And instead of stressing out about, oh my god, what metaphor do I use, I need to prepare ahead of time, we say fuck that shit. Why not utilize the metaphor, wait for the metaphors to come up organically, so that then and only then will you utilize that metaphor. Because that when that comes organically, as we know, the unconscious mind is very deliberate, right? So if you're talking to your client and maybe they're stuck procrastinating in their business, right? And then they start talking about being stuck in this cage, that coming up metaphorically, that metaphor coming up organically is a great deliberate thing that the unconscious mind did, which means that the unconscious mind has opened up to you, and then you get to explore that. You get to explore the metaphor, right? You are not taking them to the cage, like outside the cage. What if the unconscious mind wants that client to be in a cage and explore that cage instead of leaving, right? We can assume that cages are bad, but as we know, the unconscious mind is really odd. And we have bad dreams that are not necessarily bad, right? Maybe that client just needs to be in that space inside that cage because there is something to learn from there. That is how you're going to create the massive impact. That is what your client will remember you for, and more powerfully. And plus, again, like I mentioned before, it's a lot more fun to just not prepare, go into your session and your wait for your client's unconscious expressions, such as a metaphor, to come up organically. And if a client says, I just feel like I'm sinking as if I'm in quicksand. And then you talk about like the quicksand, right? Can you get out? Is your whole body sinking? And then they say, oh no, it's just my feet. And then they themselves within that metaphor can see themselves and they can learn about themselves and they can find their metaphorical solution to that problem. What if the client, as you just have fun with them and ask them about the sinking down the quicksand, and they say, you know what? I am sick of being in this fucking quicksand. I am just going to loop myself up, and then I am going to take these new ski type things. I'm going to ski my way throughout my whole life, blah 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 blah. And that's how your sessions start becoming. And then they find this natural organic resource that is metaphorical in nature because that's how they solve their problem. And then you don't have to think about it because it's not up to you to fix your client's problem anyway, and they do it themselves. They find the answer themselves. And again, it's a lot more fun this way. I love clients who bring in unconscious metaphors like this, because you get to really have fun with it. And this is how in our sessions we go from talking about like extremely intense situations. Like for me, I was in a toxic relationship niche, um, and breakup niche, which can get very heavy. But when my clients went through the metaphors, we just allowed the process to happen and continue. And sure, they become emotional. They laughed at the same time, even though we're talking about really heavy emotion. Utilizing their own metaphors allows it to become a lighter approach so that it doesn't feel too intense, but at the same time, it's healing them profoundly. So, this is one of the ways that you can definitely start to utilize. Just ask your clients about it. It's going to get real odd real fast, but that is the fun of it. We have really unusual conversations in our hypnotic questioning sessions, but these are the breakthroughs where you're like, oh my God, I don't even know how that worked, but because you spoke the language of the unconscious mind, no wonder why at the end you're most of your session you're talking about like sinking in the quicksand and the cages, and at this and your symptom problem was procrastination. And then at the end of that your client goes, I'm ready, let's fucking go. Those are the amazing transformations that you get to have if you start doing this and or if you actually use the whole hypnotic questioning process. So I hope that helped, and I will see you